There we go. Hi, everyone. Um, another week, another new camera situation. I'm using my laptop instead of my phone, so it always takes a little while for it to tell me that we're actually live, even though I know that we're live as soon as I hit the button. I don't know. Hi, everybody. Um, it's time for lunch. So, long story short, I wanted to do shepherd's pie for everyone today, and there is a recipe for shepherd's pie in the America's Test Kitchen cookbook. And then I said, wait a second, I don't have any of those ingredients. I have the ground lamb, which is why I wanted to make shepherd's pie, and I don't have anything else. I don't even have cauliflower to make instead of mashed potatoes, which is probably what I would do, but actually I love potatoes, so. But I do have, oh no, you can't see it anymore because I moved the camera. Right off screen is my slow cooker with my corned beef brisket. It's been in for about an hour and a half, so it'll be ready around 6:30. I'm so excited. I made my own spice blend because that's how I like it best. There is also a recipe for corned beef in the America's Test Kitchen cookbook. And this is like a ground up recipe. It is going to the butcher and getting a brisket and brining it yourself for a few days and then cooking it, which I was not going to do. So what are we making today instead? Something completely different and non-St. Patrick's Day themed. Sorry, we're making chicken saltimbocca from the America's Test Kitchen cookbook. Everybody knows that this is my favorite cookbook. A hefty cookbook. Somebody returned it recently at the library, so I saw it on the shelf, and that was how I was reminded to take a look at that cookbook for some recipes. But I keep mine on my Kindle. I actually purchased it because I love this cookbook so much. There are so many recipes, and they always turn out delicious. And I love the little descriptions that they have before each recipe. It's why this recipe works. In its classic Italian form, saltimbocca is made with veal, prosciutto, and sage, but chicken is frequently substituted for the veal. The combination of flavors is meant to jump in the mouth, which is what the word means. Preparing this dish can be complicated, but we wanted to streamline it to ensure the flavors were well balanced. Flouring only the chicken rather than the chicken prosciutto package as a whole, which if you get it at a restaurant, the whole thing is breaded. Avoids gummy spots. The prosciutto is usually secured to the chicken with a toothpick, but we found that searing the prosciutto side of the chicken first worked well, so we're going to try that. Once browned, the two stuck together just fine. And then, so I don't have any sage. This recipe is made with sage. It's one of the few spices and herbs that I don't have. So I looked it up, and you can substitute it with a blend of other things. So I'm using tarragon and thyme to get a similar flavor profile. I'm not using regular flour as usual. I'm using gluten-free flour. And instead of white wine, I'm using bone broth. And I'll probably serve it with some broccoli or something like that. That noise was my cat. She was sitting underneath the kitchen table, and now she is awake. So she's gonna hang out with us and make a lot of noise. All right, so the first thing that I've done is you take chicken breasts and you slice them in half. I didn't do a very neat job. You slice them in half so that they're thinner. These were already pounded out before they were frozen, apparently, thanks to my dad. We share groceries, so thanks, Dad. And so you just want them to be thin because they'll cook faster, they get the nice crisp from the little bit of flour that's on it, and they don't overcook, they stay nice and moist. So what I'm going to do, oh, the camera angle doesn't work that well. See, that's the thing about doing it on the computer instead of the phone, is that it always changes there we go, it always changes a little bit. That's better. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just lightly sprinkle some of the flour over my chicken and just kind of get a nice thin coating. We don't want it thick. We're not making fried chicken. It's just to help it get a nice crisp. I think you've seen me do this before. I don't know if I've done this before here or if I've just done this before and talked about it, but I sometimes I use arrowroot starch or tapioca starch, but I wanted to try the gluten-free flour just to see. But it does, it makes your food lightly crispy without frying or being battered, which is nice. So I'm just gonna grab a measuring spoon and just sprinkle a little bit over the chicken, and I'll use my basting brush, my silicone basting brush, just to help spread it out and prevent any thick patches. Ooh, it's gonna get everywhere. Here we go. It's everywhere. It's fine. I'm just gonna sprinkle it over my chicken. Just doing a thin coating, remember. Alright, where's my little brush? It's here somewhere. Okay. There it is. So I'm just going to kind of spread this all out so it's evenly distributed on my chicken without getting my hands raw chickeny. My least favorite thing. See, it's just a really, really light coating. We're not doing like an egg wash. We're not trying to get it to really stick. Just the moisture of the chicken itself is doing the job here. And then I'll shake it off when I turn it with my tongs. Just try not to wash my hands a million times because my hands, I'm sure like everybody else's, are super, super dry. They have been for the last year or so. Aside from the fact that the cold, dry weather came back after we had a little bit of nice weather last week, right? Okay, so I'm going to use my tongs and flip these over. It off and just get a little flour on my brush, and it's just super, super thin. Again, we're not looking for excess. And then I'm going to put the herbs on top of that and the prosciutto, and then we start to cook it. It's really, really easy, this recipe. That's the other thing about the America's Test Kitchen Cookbook that I like, is that nothing is super, super complex. It's, you know, some of the recipes might seem to be a lot, but it's actually usually streamlined or simplified or demystified, really, which is nice. There, just a nice light coating. Do you have a snack? She did. She just had a little food, a little snacky. All right. I'm just brushing away some of the excess here. Okay, she's back under the table. It must be nice to nap all day. I think, was it Monday? Monday was apparently National Nap Day. So if you took an extra nap on Monday, you were just celebrating the holiday, apparently. That should be good. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of my herbs on here, and then the prosciutto goes on top, and that keeps the herbs in, and apparently the prosciutto will stick once we put it into the frying pan. So, okay. Alright, so like I said, I'm doing a combination of thyme and tarragon for that kind of like warm, woodsy flavor that you might find with sage. But like I said, sage, so out of all the things that I have, this giant spice rack on the inside of my pantry door, and I don't have sage. It's weird. So I will get that. I usually have fresh sage leaves, usually, but that plant died, so I got it a couple months ago, and I just kept keeping it alive, doing a lot of brown butter sage sauces. Alright, a little bit of tarragon. I love tarragon. What a great flavor. So hard to describe. And I'm taking them out and I'm kind of crushing them in my hands so that they're a little finer. They're not big chunks of leaves. And it also helps to release the oils and the flavors because these are, you know, dried instead of fresh. But it's not always easy to get fresh herbs. Soon we will have our herb plants outside, which is lovely on our back deck. For that. Yeah, so I'm not being very traditional about this recipe, but what are you going to do about it? Okay, so there you go, just a light sprinkling of the herbs. Let's see, what are we going to do now? Oh, a little bit of pepper as well. just a little bit. Okay, that should be good. All right, let's see. Heat oil in the skillet over a medium-high heat. And at this point, if you want to fry some sage leaves, you can fry some sage leaves until they start to change color and are fragrant. Transfer them to a paper towel and set aside. Okay, but I'm not doing that. Add the cutlets to the pan, prosciutto side down, and cook until lightly browned on one side, about 2 minutes. Flip the chicken over and continue to cook until no longer pink. Then we transfer the chicken to a plate and we make the little bit of sauce and then we serve it. So, all right, so I'm gonna get my oil, I'm gonna heat it up. So while that's heating up, I'll get the prosciutto on top of my chicken. It looks like I'm turning this all the way down, but I'm not. My stovetop has like 2 settings, 3 settings, super high, high, and a little less high. So I kind of always have to turn it pretty far down if I don't want my food to burn. That's just the way my stove is. All right, so I have my slices of prosciutto. So good. And I'm sure you noticed we added pepper, but we didn't add any salt. Prosciutto is salty enough, especially when it cooks and it concentrates down. Salty enough, you do not need to add salt to your flour dredge. Don't. Like, just don't. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and drape the prosciutto over the top of my chicken and hope that this works. The recipe says that it works. I'm trusting you, America's Test Kitchen. I don't know. There's a picture of it somewhere, but let's see. They do have some pictures, yeah. I mean, I think they cut theirs differently than I did. I probably should have watched a video instead. I probably should have watched a video or something. Let's see. I'm just kind of cutting this in half. I'm just gonna kind of like wrap my chicken with it. So basically the picture shows there are a couple pictures for this one. I'm just going to brush off the excess flour. You're kind of manhandling the chicken here so that you make sure that this goes prosciutto side down. My pot is definitely nice and hot. Get a little bit of that oil. I don't know, it says that the prosciutto will stick. We're going to find out. It's kind of a small piece of prosciutto. It's alright. It's alright. Shake off the flour. Prosciutto side down. There we go. I think I can fit one more in here. There we go. Alright, I've got one more piece of chicken. Let's see, it's kind of a thin one, so if I nestle it in after these shrink a little bit, I should be okay. Ow. It's bubbling. It's hot. It's alright. My stove was clean. Now it's not. It's alright. Into my tongs. Move these a little bit so I can get my last piece in there. That should actually be perfect. Last piece, little and thin. It's going to go right on in here. Perfect. So I can put this in there, wash my hands. Okay, how are we doing? Looks good. This piece is a little bit thicker than others. Sorry, I'm trying to help somebody get a vaccine appointment, so I have alerts going to my watch. In case there are any appointments. All right, so let me wash this too because I touched it. Right, so the one piece is a little thicker than the others, so I'm going to let that sit for a bit, and I'm going to get a plate. Because once these are cooked, I'm going to set them aside on my plate. Oh yeah, we're going to have to clean this stove when we're done here today. Okay. Alright, I think this piece can be flipped. I'm going to need an assist. I can smell the herbs. I can smell that tarragon. I love tarragon. It did stick. It did stick. It's there. I'm going to flip this one as well, and then wait another minute for the other two. And so, it's not, I don't have a crispy batter on it, but I do have, and you can see it on this one. I can't move the computer, sorry. And you can see it on this one the best. There's just this light brown textured spot on the chicken, which is exactly what we want. You can move this one now too. Let's split. So if you are like me and you're gluten-free and you go to a restaurant, you do need to specify, even if it's something like a pan-seared salmon, that you're gluten-free, because this is something that is commonly done on chicken and fish, especially salmon, just to get a nice light browning and crisp. It's not just from high heat and high oil in a pan, maybe at a really nice restaurant, but at some restaurants it's because it was very lightly coated with flour. Oh my gosh, the tarragon thyme smells amazing. One of my favorite smells. Oh my goodness gracious. Alright. Yeah, it's got like a little crisp, like I can hear it and feel it when I run my spatula over it. Alright, this one can be flipped now. There we go. Now let them sit. Alright, I can put this in the sink. And then I go over here, just off camera, and take like a good whiff of like the garlic and mustard and coriander and all of the herbs and spices that are on the corned beef. My house smells so good right now. Alright. I don't want them to overcook, but I know that some of them need a little more cooking than others. This one is definitely done. I can tell just by how long it's been cooking, how cooked through it was before I flipped it, and also just the texture of it. It's not super squishy anymore. Okay, like that one is really squishy. That one is thicker. That one is squishy. That's not done yet. This one's done. I'm going to wipe down my counter a little bit. A little bit. Carefully, of course. This one is done. What is this guy? Just that guy. Should have pounded that one a little thinner or cut it differently. But this is what they look like so far. So you can see they're lightly browned. There's a little bit of texture, but it's not heavily floured or breaded, which is really nice. Just a little bit of texture. I like it. All right. I'm still waiting for this guy to cook. Yeah, I cut mine differently than they did. I should have almost like butterflied it, I guess, but I just cut it in half to have extra thin pieces, so I think it's fine. All right, what are we gonna do next? Cookbook. Transfer to the plate, and you can cover it so that it remains warm. Let me get a cover. One of my favorite methods is the plate over plate method. It says you can also tent it with foil, a pot lid, something like that. It's fine. All right. Doesn't feel better. This guy is better. So I'm going to turn this all the way down. Put this here. We're going to move this to the side. Actually, I'm going to turn this off for a second so I can adequately move this without dropping or breaking anything. Okay. Alright, so the next thing that we are going to do is, if you have any excess fat, you can pour it off. I barely have any grease in here. You're going to stir in your vermouth, white wine, chicken broth, whatever it is that you're using, and scrape up some of the chicken bits. And we're going to reduce this. Then we're going to add in the lemon juice. So, turn this back on. Go. We're going to deglaze our pan, get all of the bits, the yummy tasting bits off the bottom of the pan. And then let it reduce down. Especially important if you're cooking with an alcohol, you want to cook out the alcohol. For me, not that important. We do want this to reduce a little bit. Okay. Let's see. I'm not making as big of a batch, so I'm kind of making up my measurements like I always do. Stir in the lemon juice, turn the heat to low, and whisk in the butter 1 tablespoon at a time. Then you can add some fresh parsley. I don't have fresh, so I'll go grab the dried parsley. Salt and pepper to taste. Spoon the sauce over the chicken, and if you did fry up your sage leaves, you put that over top. I might actually put my chicken in here and let it all come together, which I think would be nice. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of my lemon juice. Just a little bit. We love that acid to complete our flavor profile, right? You need some salt, you need some acid just to help your flavor profiles. I'm going to add in, I think the original recipe is like double this. I'm going to just do like a tablespoon and a half of butter. It calls for 4, but this is definitely for a bigger recipe. I'll let that melt in, and I'm going to add in parsley and pepper. I don't know if I need salt because I use stock instead of wine, so I'm going to probably stay away from that. A little bit of pepper. And I'm going to grab my dried parsley and put these away while I'm there. I usually have some parsley frozen in my fridge, but I'm pretty sure I used it all. What do I have in there now? I have lemongrass and mint. That's what I have in there now. All right, so just make sure we are mixing this all. We want it to come together and reduce a little bit. So I'm actually going to go ahead and put my chicken right back in here and let them cook together so that my chicken stays warm. I'm just breaking the rules. I'm making this all up. It's fine. Obviously, prosciutto side up. We don't want our prosciutto to get mushy. We worked really hard to get it nice and crisp and delicious. Just nestle them in and let them all cook together. It's delicious. right, let me put everything in the fridge and then I'll take you through a little bit more of this cookbook. As I usually do, I'll show you the corned beef and shepherd's pie recipe if you're interested in that for today. There we go, my sauce, you can see, watch my sauce for me, you can see it's cooking down, it's getting more opaque in color, we're getting there. I just want to move it around a little bit. I want to make sure it doesn't burn. We're just kind of being really gentle right now. All right, let's see. So, where was it? I think we are in the skillet suppers, perhaps. I have to search for it, which you can do on a Kindle, which is nice. Search corned beef. Oh, I did that wrong. Search. Let's see. There's a lot of corn chowder and stuff. Corn kernels. Corned beef is in the one dish suppers. New England style. Corned beef and cabbage is a hearty winter favorite, but too many recipes result in overly salty beef and washed out mushy vegetables. To control the salt level in our beef, we eschewed commercially corned beef and set out to cure our own with an easy dry rub. We cooked our corned beef in the oven so it would benefit from the oven's slow, steady, and gentle heat. So there it tells you how to brine it yourself. Refrigerate for 5 to 7 days. But if you want to corn your own beef, do you know where that came from? So I was trying to figure it out today. I was trying to look as I let this overcook. Because the salt used to cure it, the pink salt, is the size of corn kernels. That's where it came from. All right, let me turn this off. We are definitely done. My sauce has thickened. My chicken looks good. My prosciutto is still crisp, but everything is nice and warm. Okay, I've got my plate. I'll grab myself some chicken. Making sure to scoop up some of the sauce with the chicken. Probably could have done a little more, but I was eyeballing it, and I kind of figured like, oh, I'm not using that much chicken, but it's fine. All right. Put the sauce over top. And that's it. That's the chicken saltimbocca. The non-traditional chicken saltimbocca, because I did not have sage. But you could put your little fried sage leaf right on top, if you would like. Alright, let me get a fork and a knife so I can test this out. Alright, the knife is right here. Alright, see it? There we go. All right, so I'm gonna go for some nice crisp prosciutto. Just cut right into this. My chicken is nice and tender because I pounded it thin, so I know that it was cooked through without overcooking it. Still nice and juicy. Mmm. Hmm. It's so herbaceous because I have the parsley in this reduced lemony, chickeny sauce. And there was a little bit of flour left in the pan, which also helps to thicken up the sauce as well. But of course, don't forget I have that tarragon and thyme in there, so it's got this wonderfully warm, earthy flavor as well. There's some light browning and a little bit of texture on the chicken from the flour, but it is not heavy, it's not breaded, there's no breading falling off of it while you're cutting it. It's just there just for a little bit of texture and to encourage the browning of the meat. This is really good. This is really, so I like that the chicken was thin, because a lot of people are afraid to cook their chicken just so, and then your chicken gets dry. And I have a meat thermometer that I use a lot, which has helped me kind of figure out when my chicken is done without always needing the thermometer. But you can tell just by pressing it. Is it firm, or is it still really bouncy? If it's still really bouncy, it's not done in the middle. Well, this is done. This is juicy. This is brown. This is so good. Mm. I need a napkin for the sauce. I love that the sauce, when I pour it over top, is getting into some of the nooks and crannies of the texture of the prosciutto, because then you cut through the heaviness with these little bursts of lemon sauce. This is really good. This is really, really good. This is delicious. I'm going to go finish my lunch and enjoy it. I'm going to go grab some vegetables for myself as well, because we are going to have a well-rounded lunch in this house. But so that is it, the Complete America's Test Kitchen TV show cookbook. This is the new edition that was released this year for 2021, and we have it at the library, or you can check it out on Libby, or I bought mine, but there is a Kindle version on Libby, or you can use it on the screen here on the computer, if you don't want to carry the big book. But it's a great cookbook. I mean, I have tried so many recipes from this book so far, and there has not been one that I disliked. And my neighbor, I let my neighbor borrow it as well, and not here, she liked the big version, and she made a bunch of recipes that she said were also all perfect. So really good cookbook. So you can check that out. You can request it on bccls.org, or go on to Libby or Overdrive using your library card number and take a look for it. All right, that is it for me for today. I hope everybody enjoys, whether you're having a St. Patrick's Day meal or just a regular Wednesday meal. I hope your meal is delicious, and we'll see you soon. Bye.